G'day everyone, welcome back. I'm Uncle Frosty, and today we're going to go through 10 Marvel and G.I. Joe team-ups that were just meant to happen. I'm sure you're all like me. I grew up not only just seeing G.I. Joe and its media, but also other toy lines and characters. I'd have to say that even though G.I. Joe was delivered to us through the Marvel Comics group, it had its own stable of characters, and they were probably the biggest sort of set of characters that we had in our lives, in my opinion, of course. So we had characters, from Spider-Man to Punisher to the X-Men, and through that we were exposed to amazing heroes, villains, and teams that really just filled our imagination with epic battles and gave us the best childhood out of any generation ever. Recently, I thought to myself, though, it's funny how we have all these just normal human beings in the Marvel stable, and they really have no abilities. They just seem to be there as support acts or storylines, and really nothing else. So I thought, let's take those characters and put them into a universe like G.I. Joe, where they become gods. We're used to characters like Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes just doing the impossible in the G.I. Joe universe. But a lot of these poorly used Marvel characters would also be truly amazing if we slotted them into that universe. So today we're going to take a look at 10 of these characters and which G.I. Joes that they would, be great to team up with in battle. I thought the easy thing would to have them just battle each other, but we all know in the G.I. Joe universe, it's all about teaming up together to take down Cobra, and knowing is half of the battle. So let's kick into the list with number one. All right, let's talk about a team up that honestly feels just too perfect. And it was the one that I wanted to talk about first because it was the one out of this list that I was just the most excited to address. And that is Frank Castle being the Punisher, teaming up with Mercer from the Marauders. So picture this, right? Cobra's got a weapons facility deep in the enemy territory, way off the radar, and you need that thing just blowing up, destroyed, shit crapped out of it. Who do you send in? So you're not calling in Beachhead or Duke for this one. This isn't a leadership or like, oh, let's get the second in command to go and do some work. You just need two guys who understand the mission, don't ask questions, and are fine with a high body count. And that, to me, sounds like a Castle and Mercer mission. So what makes these two work together so well? Is it just their military training? It's their mindset. Both of these guys operate with a sort of no-nonsense, results-first approach. For Frank, that sort of come from a personal tragedy that rewired his brain and his entire moral compass. He's definitely not doing this for medals. He's doing it because it's addressing and punishing evil, and that's just what he likes to do. Mercer, on the other hand, he's a bit of a redemption story. He used to be Cobra. He was trained by them. He fought alongside them, and then he realized the whole system, it was just broken. So he switched sides, knowing full well that he'd be hunted for it. And, that kind of conviction takes some serious nuts. These guys really shine in weapon proficiency. They know their gear. This was an easy match for me to do. Uh, I think they know their weapons. They're just brutes. Frank Castle is basically a walking arsenal. If it fires bullets, launches rockets, or explodes, he knows all about it and he loves it. He's the kind of guy who'd probably kill you with a banana if he had to. He's just a dangerous guy. And really, Mercer's the same. His time in Cobra gave him inside knowledge on all of their enemy weapon systems. He knows their tech, knows their strategies, their pressure points. And when you pair that with Frank's guerrilla warfare experience, you've got a two-man wrecking crew. You could pretty much assume that these two will never need backup. They just get the mission done. Let's not forget their tactics knowledge. Frank might have come off like a blunt instrument, but he's a former Marine Force recon. He doesn't just charge in guns blazing, he plans things, he flanks, and he sets traps. Same with Mercer. Um, he's done enough solo ops to understand when to hit hard and maybe just when to hang back. Attitude wise, I feel like they understand each other perfectly. They aren't there to chat about the weather or economics. They're there to achieve the mission and get home to then prepare for more punishing. I don't think they'd necessarily be friends or even necessarily civil to each other half the time. But once they're in the mission, they would just be completely in sync. And you can imagine sort of the debrief after the mission. Everyone's just covered in mud and blood. And Frank just grunts while Mercer loads another mag and says, "You want to go again?" That's the kind of energy that it doesn't just fit into G.I. Joe, it expands it. Castle and Mercer wouldn't just survive in the ranks, they'd thrive. Call them what you want, the bruisers, the Black Ops unit, the guys who don't wear smiles. But if you've got a mission that no one else wants, screw the A team, you send in Frank Castle and Mercer. Let's kick on now to number 2. So, next up, when it comes to elite Black Ops in their respective universes, Scarlett and Black Widow are at the absolute top of the food chain. These two don't need to lead with heavy weapons or flashy explosions. They lead with silence, stealth, and precision. And when necessary, just a brutal punch to the hairy beanbag. Scarlett's been a part of G.I. Joe since day one. She's not just a pretty face or a token female character. I know that it might seem like she is, but she's a linguist, counter intel expert, and one of the best hand-to-hand fighters on the team. We saw that recently when we saw her testing Snake Eyes when he first entered the Joe unit. She's the one that you can call on when a mission needs brains, balance, and deadly efficiency. Now, you take that resume and you layer it with Black Widow, the former KGB assassin turned SHIELD agent. She operates so deep in the shadows that most people forget she exists until she's already dismantled a syndicate from the inside. Together, they wouldn't just be effective, they'd be unstoppable, I reckon. Now, let's talk infiltration. Both of them have run deep cover missions that lasted weeks, even months without support. They can blend into any environment, speak multiple languages, change identities at will, and manipulate their surroundings to get what they need. Scarlett has that military bred discipline. She's always calculating, always a step ahead. Black Widow, on the other hand, she's got the spycraft edge, the ability to use charm, deception, and misdirection to outthink even the most sophisticated enemy networks. Put them on a joint mission, and they're breaking in the Cobra data vault while the war rages on the surface. And no one will even know that they're there until it's too late. And hand to hand, Jeebus. Scarlett's known for a mastery of martial arts, judo, taekwondo, you name it. She trains constantly and she's often keeping pace with the best male fighters on the team. She doesn't need a gun to win. I'd personally love, to see some kind of matchup between her and, let's go hard. Put her up against Sergeant Slaughter and see what happens. Now, Black Widow, she prefers not to use weapons. She'll take down 5 armed guards before breakfast using just the legs and tasers hidden in a wrist gauntlets. That's the Widow bite, and they don't see it coming. They also complement each other in temperament. So Scarlett's calm, strategic, and quietly confident. Widow is cool, ruthless, and deeply analytical. There's mutual respect there. No competition, no egos, just a shared understanding of getting things done. On the battlefield, they'd be operating independently, but always in sync. And that's what this list is about. It's about working as a team and working together in sync. You'd have Scarlett probably covering the long range comms and planning the exfil route, whilst Widow would probably slip into the facility's underbelly and neutralize targets without raising a single alarm. The only question that Cobra's going to ask when these two show up is what the hell just happened? Scarlett and Black Widow, they're not just spies, they're tacticians, they're fighters, they're survivors. They're the covert wing of a Joe team that's finally gone global. And you can bet your last red ninja that they're going to leave a trail of shattered Cobra soldiers in their wake. So that's our number 2 on the list. Let's check out number 3 now. When it comes to battlefield leadership, 2 names stand out tall in their respective universes. Give them to me. Give you a second. 2. All right. General Hawk and Nick Fury. So they're not just desk-bound commanders. These are the men who built their reputations on the front lines. They don't just give the orders, they understand every inch of the battlefield. So let's start with Hawk. He's a West Point graduate and a decorated field officer. He's the kind of leader that Joes rally around, and we've seen that numerous times in the comics. He's calm under pressure, he's tactical to the core, and he's respected by everyone from grunts to specialists. He's the glue that holds the team together when the chaos erupts. And what about Nick Fury? The man is a living legend. He's a former Army Ranger. He's done CIA, Black Ops, Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., you name it, he's run it. So what makes Fury so dangerous isn't just the resources at his disposal. It's that he can walk into any war zone and instantly understand how to take control of it. And that leads on to both Hawk and Fury sharing a critical trait, and that's situational mastery. They don't just command, they orchestrate. Think of them like battlefield conductors. They know how to move the pieces across the board, position those assets for maximum impact, and they adapt when the plan goes sideways. That's an important thing in the military. Things, it's kind of a known thing that things just aren't always going to go how you think they are. So being agile and resilient to your plan, going sideways that's a nice way of me putting it. That's a really strong thing for a military person. But here's the kicker, right? They're not just pulling those chess pieces across the board. They're not just commanding, they also fight. And, think back to Hawk's beautiful artwork on his original card. He's got his pistol and he's leading the Joes into battle. That's exactly how it looks. Hawk's no stranger to the battlefield. So whether it's leading an assault or getting behind the controls of a transport under fire, he's never afraid to get his hands dirty. He's the kind of commander who earns loyalty because he proves himself under fire. And Fury's the same way. So you might see him directing a global strike team 1 minute and then diving into a shootout the next. He's old school. He's always carrying a sidearm, always 5 moves ahead, and he's never flinching when the bullets start flying. So what makes them a great pairing is that they bring complementary command styles to the table. Hawk leads with structured military precision. His strength is organizing units, anticipating enemy moves, and making sure no soldier is ever left behind. Fury's more shadow ops in his style. He leads by keeping intel close to his chest, using misdirection, contingency plans, and sometimes just letting the enemy walk into the trap that he set 5 steps ago. Together, they would just be a devastating force in high-stakes operations. Hawk could oversee the whole wide-angle strategy, managing the air support, the team deployment, and those coordinated assaults, while Fury handles the black file stuff, the intel gathering, the sabotage, and the behind-the-scenes manipulation. And what's the result? A battlefield where every move is accounted for. The enemy doesn't even realize they've lost until the smoke clears. And what's more, both of these guys earn their authority. They've been shot, betrayed, outnumbered, and they're still standing. And that's the kind of leadership that G.I. Joe and even S.H.I.E.L.D. is built on. Hawk and Fury aren't flashy, they're not the loudest voices in the room, but when they speak, everyone listens. And when the world's falling apart, you want these two in charge. Let's go on to number 4. Now, here's a pairing that just smells like sweat, blood, and battlefield smoke. If you can imagine that and get that into your nose. Sergeant Slaughter and Crossbones. These two aren't your quiet, clean-cut operatives. They don't sneak in. They storm the front gate, fist out, daring the enemy to stop them. And most of the time, no one can. So let's talk about the Sarge. He's a drill instructor by legend, a street fighting powerhouse by nature. Man is muscle wrapped in discipline, a living symbol of toughness, who can break you down mentally and physically and then rebuild you as a soldier. He's loud, he's mean, and he doesn't care about your excuses. But what people often forget is that behind all the bravado is a veteran tactician. Slaughter didn't get to lead missions and train elite Joes just by shouting the loudest. He didn't just walk onto that drill square and start barking orders and get respected straight away. He's been through battles that no one talks about, the kind of black book missions that don't show up in briefings. And Crossbones, he's the villain version of that same energy. A brutal hand-to-hand expert with a file so redacted, even S.H.I.E.L.D. can't pin down his origins. Some say he's ex-special forces, others say mercenary. All we know for sure is that wherever there's mayhem, Crossbones isn't far behind. He's not just muscle, he's precision muscle. Every punch is calculated, every move meant to do maximum damage. He doesn't fight for glory, he fights because it's what he's built for. Now imagine these two on the battlefield together. Slaughter's charging through the smoke, rallying troops with pure force of will, barking orders, dragging injured soldiers to safety with one hand and knocking out Cobra troopers with the other. Meanwhile, Crossbones is a storm in the shadows. He's brutal, quiet, and utterly destructive. No fear, no hesitation, just ruthless efficiency. But here's the twist. They're both leaders. Slaughter leads from the front, inspiring by example. He'll never ask you to do something he wouldn't do himself. And that's what earns him unwavering respect. Crossbones, on the other hand, leads through fear. Not the kind of fear that weakens, the kind that forces results. He'll take control of a squad, push them to the edge, and get the job done because failure isn't in his vocab. If you're watching this now and you've served in the military, you know exactly what I'm saying with this guy. You know, you'll get your leaders that you respect through, you know, they wouldn't ask you to do anything that they wouldn't do. And then you'll get those guys that do just kind of scare you a little bit. And even though they're on opposite sides of the moral spectrum, they understand each other. They've both seen way too much, done too much, carried weight others couldn't survive. And their pasts, still a mystery. You'll hear whispers, unconfirmed missions, rumors of betrayals, secret ops, things that never happened. But the battlefield doesn't care about rumors, it only cares about results. And if you need someone to lead a squad through absolute hell, whether you're fighting for Cobra or against it, you want a guy like the Sarge or a guy like Crossbones. Just don't let them get in each other's way. Because when you see these two collide, it's not a battle, it's a demolition. So moving on to number 5. There's some operatives who don't just join a battle, they change it. And that's exactly what Lady J and Yelena Belova bring to the table. Both are tactical experts, fluent in multiple languages, trained in dozens of weapon systems, and able to lead elite squads into the most dangerous combat zones on the planet. But what sets them apart? It's their ability to make everyone around them better. So let's start with Lady J. She's not just a soldier, she's an intelligence officer. Her background in covert ops and her unmatched ability to improvise in the field make her one of the most versatile assets in the G.I. Joe team. You give her a 3-man squad and a vague mission outline, and she'll return with the objective complete, no casualties, and 3 extra pieces of intel that no one even asked for. She's the kind of leader who understands people. She doesn't bark orders, she builds trust. Her teammates follow her, not out of fear, but because they believe in her instincts. Now enters Yelena, the second Black Widow, and in many ways more tactically grounded than Natasha. Yelena was trained in the Red Room, raised to be ruthless, methodical, and unstoppable. But what makes her dangerous isn't just her training, it's her precision. Every move she makes is calculated. She doesn't waste motion, energy, or time. And like Lady J, Yelena is fluent in weaponry, pistols, rifles, knives, explosives. She's just not capable with them. She's an expert. But here's where the synergy really happens. They both elevate those around them. They're a force multiplier. We've all seen in sporting teams how the captain or one of the popular players, when they go off, you just notice the team go down. When they come back on, they lead the team. They're a force multiplier. In the field, Yelena works best with small elite units. She's not built for massive battlefield chaos. She thrives in the shadows, coordinating quick hits, ambushes, and counterinsurgency tactics. If you give her a 4-person team, she'll have one, each one working like a surgical instrument, tight, efficient, and lethal. Now, Lady J, she's using the same playbook. She's not flashy. She's not the one making headlines, but she's the reason that missions succeed. She analyzes the situation, exploits enemy weaknesses, and adapts her team on the fly. You put her and Yelena in charge of a joint operation, and they're clearing compounds and securing HVTs before most commanders have finished their sit rep. And don't also overlook the psychological edge here. Both women have commanding presences without needing to shout. They lead through competence and unshakable focus. They're the calm in the storm, which is exactly what you need when the mission goes sideways. Now, together, they'd form the backbone of any small unit deployment. If you need someone to neutralize a Cobra warlord in a foreign capital, these two are the advance team and the extraction crew. But let's be honest, they're the kind of leaders that Cobra underestimates, and that is a big mistake. Because when Lady J and Yelena are in the field, mission isn't just possible, it's already handled. You just haven't gotten the report yet. Now, I want to take this opportunity to just tell you quickly about the channel membership option. It's super low cost. You're getting heaps of extra videos per month. If you think it might be something you might like to see, go and check it out now. Pause the video, check out the option. And if you haven't hit that like button yet, hit it now, please. Now, moving on to number 6. If you're building a G.I. Joe strike team and you don't include Chuckles, then you clearly haven't read the mission file. And the same goes for Marvel's Hawkeye. On the surface, these two might not look like your typical special ops titans. One's got a laid-back Hawaiian shirt and a smile that says, "I know more than I'm telling you." And the other's a guy with a bow in a world full of gods and super soldiers. But here's the truth, right? They're masters of adaptation, improvisation, and intelligence gathering. They're the ones you drop deep behind enemy lines when you're not even sure who the enemy is. So let's start with Chuckles. Officially, he's an undercover specialist. Unofficially, he's the Joe that you send in when everything is in chaos and the rules don't apply. He can drink with the bad guys, blend into Cobra cells, and feed back actionable intel without even blowing his cover for months if needed. And I'll always flick back to that Cobra comic series from about 2010, where this is exactly what he did. And it was a beautiful storyline. Go check it out if you haven't read it already. And what happens when his cover does blow? He doesn't run, he fights his way out. He's a brawler, and often with nothing more than a smirk, a scavenged weapon, and a plan he just made up 5 seconds ago. I sort of see Hawkeye, especially Ronin, cut from that same cloth. Now, sure, everyone jokes about the guy with the bow and the arrow until he starts dismantling squads with perfect precision, ricocheting arrows off steel beams, or pulling out knives and going toe to toe with enemies twice his size. What makes him special, though, isn't just his aim, it's his instincts. Hawkeye can walk into a room and instantly size up the exits, the threats, and the tools available at his disposal. He can turn a mop and a filing cabinet into a combat ready loadout if you give him 30 seconds. Both of these guys share the superpower of being underestimated. Chuckles doesn't wear body armor usually, he doesn't carry flashy tech, but his mind is always 5 steps ahead of the situation. So whether he's eavesdropping on Cobra Brass or pulling a hidden pistol from a ceiling panel, he's built to survive the unsurvivable. Hawkeye, he can fight blindfolded and still hit you where it hurts. Give him a rifle, a staff, a broken pipe, it doesn't matter, he'll make it work. He's living proof that precision and improvisation beat raw power every time. And you know what they both excel at? Like these points that I bought aren't even the main power. They excel at intel. They aren't just fighters, they're observers. They notice the guard rotation, the out of place insignia, the way someone hesitates before answering a question. They take all that information and flip entire missions with it. But they're not lone wolves either. When they're embedded into a team, they become force multipliers. Chuckles feeds back enemy movement in real time. Hawkeye clears angles and covers teammates with pinpoint backup. You don't even realize that they're reason that the mission actually succeeded until someone reads the report. If a Cobra facility suddenly goes dark and no one saw anyone leave, that was probably Chuckles. And if an entire Hydra squad drops before they fire a shot, with one arrow sticking out of a camera cable 300 feet away, that's Hawkeye. These two aren't the loudest, the strongest, or the most celebrated, but if the mission absolutely has to succeed, even when the plan falls apart, you want Chuckles and Hawkeye in the shadows watching everything and making sure that the rest of the team makes it home. Next up, we're looking at Chameleon and Silver Sable. So if they've got one thing in common, it's this. They're not in it for the glory. They're in it for the outcome. And that outcome usually comes with a paycheck, a clean exit, and a trail of wreckage that they're not sticking around to explain. So let's talk about Chameleon. You may notice in my channel that I actually have grown a bit of a fondness for that new character in the Energon universe of comics. So yeah, we're talking about modern Chameleon here, not Baroness's sister. So we're talking blonde, goggles, red and black tactical bodysuit, the kind of look that says, I'm here to infiltrate your secrets and maybe leave a few bodies behind if necessary. She was originally a Cobra agent. And that's, this whole past of Chameleon has been a little bit twisted. Go check out the video that I did on Chameleon. It was a really fun video to make doing that research on her. So she's made a career out of flipping allegiances, blending identities, and adapting to whatever keeps her alive and in business. She's not driven by loyalty. She's driven by survival, and she's very good at it. So when we look at the Marvel universe, the equivalent is Silver Sable. She's a mercenary queen. Sable runs her own company called Silver Sable International, providing elite soldiers and personal services to governments, corporations, and shady clients with deep pockets. And she's not just a leader, though. She's an operator, field trained, sharp as a razor, and ice cold when it comes time to pull that trigger. So what makes these two such an incredible matchup is their ingenuity in the field. If you put Chameleon in a tight spot, she doesn't panic, she adapts. She'll hack a security system using a cracked screen and a stolen badge. She'll weaponize household items, reverse engineer enemy tech, and always find the back door. Silver Sable, same deal. Give her a small squad, 2 sidearms, and a deadline, and she'll walk into a fortified compound and leave with the target in hand and 0 team casualties. And when we talk about weapons mastery, it's off the charts for both. Chameleon is trained in everything from silenced pistols to covert tech and improvised explosives. She's the kind of operator who knows how every faction fights, Cobra, Joe, or anyone in between. And she carries the tools to counter them on the missions that she attends. Now, Silver Sable is a weapons polymath. Pistols, SMGs, blades. She doesn't just use them, she uses them with flair. She's been trained in both tactical precision and high-intensity brawls. And make no mistake, they both live by a code. Now, I'm not talking about a moral code necessarily, but a professional one. The mission comes first. Payment is earned, not begged for. And if things go sideways, they'll survive. You can strand Chameleon in enemy territory without support, and she'll find a disguise, crack the system, and ghost her way out. Silver Sable, she'll fight her way out, calm and composed the entire time, flipping grenades into hallways and firing clean shots through the smoke. The truth is, these two do not need backup. They are also the backup. They're not sentimental. They're not interested in team bonding exercises. Just give them a job, sabotage, extraction, deep intel work, and it's already done before command gets the sit rep. They're survivors, soldiers of fortune, and when the dust settles, you'll find Chameleon already 2 steps into the next alias, and Silver Sable already counting her bonus pay. Now, moving on to the next team up. If you're putting together a high-stakes infiltration or tactical extraction, and you need leaders who don't flinch, they don't showboat, and they don't miss a detail, you can call Beachhead and Sharon Carter. These two are what you'd call professional professionals. They're not here for the spotlight. They're here to get the job done with 0 excuses and as little noise as possible. So let's start with Beachhead. He's G.I. Joe's Ranger qualified, discipline-obsessed, no-nonsense field leader. He's the kind of guy who expects you to clean your weapon 3 times a day and enjoy it. Is he gruff? Absolutely. Is he demanding? Always. But effective, without question. Beachhead is a tactician who leads from the front. He's the first in and the last out, whether it's urban raid or a jungle recon. You'll rarely hear him yell, but when he gives an order, you follow it, because you know he's already thought 6 moves ahead. And now enters Sharon Carter, a seasoned SHIELD agent, covert ops expert, and someone who knows what it's like to operate under immense pressure without missing a beat. She's every bit as composed and mission-focused as Beachhead. Sharon's trained in diplomacy, close quarters combat, espionage, and tactical strategy. She's adaptable. She's equally comfortable going undercover in high society as she is clearing corridors in a firefight. Now, where Beachhead brings military precision, Sharon adds covert finesse. And that's what we're talking about here, right? Is team members syncing and working well together. But they share a common philosophy. The mission comes first. You've heard that a couple of times in this video. It's an important thing. The mission is why you're there. They don't crack under pressure. They don't waste time. They assess the situation, issue the orders, and execute the mission. So whether it's planning an assault or slipping through enemy checkpoints unnoticed, they bring a level of calm, cold precision that keeps teams alive. Now, when I think about Beachhead in particular, I think weapons knowledge. Beachhead could teach the armory instructors at Fort Benning a few things. He's a master with everything from assault rifles and demolitions to improvised gear. He doesn't rely on tech, he relies on training. And Sharon's kind of the same. She's always packing twin sidearms, batons, knives, tasers, and she knows how to make it all count. She's the type who can take down a room full of armed guards with 3 bullets and a steel gaze. And what really ties them together is their presence in the field. They're not the loudest, they're not the most decorated. But when they're around, everyone tightens up. The team gets sharper, focused. Because Beachhead and Sharon Carter don't tolerate sloppiness, and they don't accept failure. You can throw them into a hostile zone with a map, a radio, and a team of rookies, and by the time the exfil arrives, the mission will be complete and the rooks will be seasoned operatives. And that's the real power of leadership. They're not heroes in the comic book sense. They're the backbone, the structure. And if you're Cobra or Hydra, you never see them coming. You just realize you've lost before you even knew the fight had started. And moving on to the next team up. There's elite fighters, and then there's Jinx and Shang-Chi. If you ever needed proof that you don't need heavy weapons or high-tech armor to dominate the battlefield, it's these two. They operate in silence, strike with precision, and leave nothing but stunned enemies and stunned witnesses. Now let's start with Jinx. She's the G.I. Joe team's ninja operative. She's always wearing red, trained by the Arashikage clan, and capable of cutting through Cobra's toughest forces before the alarms even go off. She's lethal, but she's not reckless. Her combat style is as graceful as it is brutal. She used her agility and speed to overwhelm opponents, but there's always control, always discipline. She's trained in swordsmanship, pressure points, hand-to-hand takedowns, everything you'd expect from a ninja with the highest level of combat education. And then we match that energy with Shang-Chi, Marvel's undisputed master of martial arts. Raised in isolation and trained from childhood to be the ultimate hand-to-hand weapon, he doesn't just know dozens of fighting styles, he embodies them. He can read an opponent's stance like a book and end a fight before it begins. But here's where the team shines. It's not just their skill, it's their mindset. They both share a philosophy. The body is a weapon and the mind is the guide. They don't rush. They don't showboat. Every strike is intentional. Every move is calculated. And don't mistake that discipline for softness either. When things go south, they're among the most dangerous people in the field. Imagine this duo dropped into a Cobra fortress or a Hydra stronghold. No gunfire, no panic, just flickering lights, falling bodies, and silence. By the time backup arrives, the threat has been neutralized and neither of them has a scratch. Now, if we talk about weapons versatility, Jinx is a master of the dual katanas, throwing stars, daggers. If it's sharp and it fits in a belt, she's probably deadly with it. Shang-Chi may prefer his fist, but give him a bow staff, nunchucks, or even improvised weapons, and he'll use them with flawless technique. But maybe their most valuable trait is how they affect others. Their calm presence in the field brings a kind of clarity to the situation. When everyone else is scrambling under pressure, Jinx and Shang-Chi are centered, balanced, and focused. They become anchors for their teams, leading without egos and just guiding through action. What about paired together? I just picture it as a dance, a flow of movement, mutual awareness, and perfect timing. There wouldn't be any wasted energy, no unnecessary words, just execution. Cobra wouldn't even know what had hit them. And Hydra, they'd just find a pile of unconscious guards and 2 warriors already gone. Jinx and Shang-Chi are proof that the sharpest weapons are forged through discipline, not destruction. And when the world needs precision, balance, and raw, unshakable skill, these two walk in and walk out without even breaking a sweat. On to our last team up for this video. And if you haven't hit that like button yet, please hit it. You're still here. You obviously enjoy the content. If you're not subbed to my channel, please hit that sub button so that you'll know when I release future videos. And once again, give channel membership a consideration. Really love my channel members, and I love the extra content that I make for them. So on to the last team up. And this might be the most intriguing matchup of all. Not because they're the most physically dangerous, but because they could fund every war and then end it with the press of a button. So we're talking about Destro and Tony Stark. Two geniuses, two billionaires, two men who made their names by building the world's most advanced weaponry and then questioning what that really means. So let's start with Destro. He's not just a Cobra arms dealer, he's a Mars industry, a global weapons empire that sells to the highest bidder while maintaining an unspoken loyalty to his Scottish heritage and the complicated tangle of honor that comes with the Destro family name. He's cold, he's calculating, he's imposing in that polished metal mask of his. It's a symbol of both his lineage and his refusal to show weakness. And yet, Destro is not without his limits. He's loyal to his clan, to his love of the Baroness, and at times even to Cobra, although that loyalty is constantly being tested. And now contrast that with Tony Stark, the man behind the Iron Man suit. Stark is as charismatic as Destro is stoic. A futurist, a public figure, and a reformed war profiteer. He went from selling missiles to building a suit to end missile strikes. He's definitely flashy, talkative, but underneath the charm is the same kind of brutal intelligence that Destro thrives on. And like Destro, Tony's life is ruled by legacy. His father, Howard Stark, laid the groundwork for both the innovation and militarization, and Tony's spent his life trying to live up to and outgrow that shadow. What ties these two together is what they build. Both men create machines that shape nations. Destro's arsenal fuels global conflicts, but he engineers with surgical precision. Smart weapons, next-gen aircraft, custom gear. He's not slapping together junk. His products work and they're lethal, reliable, and profitable. Stark, he built the first Iron Man suit in a cave, and since then, every version has evolved past its predecessor in AI, armor tech, and battlefield adaptability. Stark doesn't just want to build to sell; he builds to change the game. Well, what about the money, though? Let's just say that these two don't need to worry about funding. They could each bankroll a small country and have enough left over to buy the next peace treaty. They definitely understand how economies work and how politics move around supply chains and strategic tech, and they use it. But maybe the most fascinating is their shared struggle with loyalty. Destro is constantly torn between love, profit, power, and national pride. He may sell weapons to Cobra, but his decisions are always filtered through his own moral compass, however twisted that may be. Now, Tony, same thing. He walks the line between being a hero and being a threat. He's loyal to the Avengers, to S.H.I.E.L.D., to his ideals, but he's also haunted by the damage that his earlier weapons caused. And that's why he builds safeguards and sometimes overbuilds them. So imagine the two of them sitting across from each other, not on a battlefield, but at a negotiation table. It wouldn't be a firefight. It'd be something that looks like a chess match. We'd see strategy, leverage, intellect, and ego. Definitely the ego. And somewhere in the middle, the question would be, can a man who makes weapons ever truly be loyal to peace? Destro and Tony Stark always live in that question. And the world watches to see which side they'll choose every single time. Now, if you've reached this point of the video, I really want to thank you for watching. These videos, they're always fun for me to make. I get to think about alternate ideas that I don't usually see too much getting discussed on YouTube. It's just the crazy stuff I like to think about. I love you guys for following the channel. Hit that like button. Leave me comments. If you enjoyed the video, let me know which team up or which couple of team ups you thought were the best and would work the best. But apart from that, until next video, Everyone, stay frosty. Bye-bye.